Hey y'all, in today's video we're going to take a look at importing data into GCP from a spreadsheet. Now there's two scenarios that we're going to look at. Number one is we select our file, we upload it, and everything goes great. Oh, happy day. Well, the second one, and probably the more likely one, is we select a file, we go to import it, we get an error. And what do we do from there? So I'm going to show you how to get around 80 to 90% of those errors with one simple trick that will really help you out. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a real confidence to be able to taking a spreadsheet in a tab delimited format or CSV format, bring it into GCP and get your business requirements taken care of. Now let's get to work. The very first thing that we've got to do is have a data set. So what I did is I went over to Kaggle, which is a place you can get some nicely formatted data sets. And I grabbed this one. It's jobs and salaries and data science. Seems very appropriate for what we're doing. And I downloaded, it's a 20 or a 78 kilobit file, so not real huge, and download it to my machine. And we're going to get that one into GCP. The first thing I always do when I am working with data is I want to know what the expected result is going to be. So let's take a look at the data that I downloaded first of all. It's this jobs and data CSV, which I want to open that in Excel. So I'm going to say open with Excel. And I'm just going to try to wrap my head around what is actually in this particular file. Now, it's launching it in Excel and Windows. That's fine. It'll just take just a second to come up here. But as it comes up, I'm going to go ahead and highlight everything and then explode it out so that I can see the data. The first thing I want to look at is the record count, right? So how many rows am I expecting, right? There's 9,355 if you take off this first row for the field names. So the other thing that I like to do is I like to just give a shove through, just eyeballing the data a little bit. You know, do I see any weird stuff as I go through? How wide is it, right? So it looks like, you know, there's whatever, you know, maybe 10 columns. The data seems to be nicely formatted. One other really quick profiling tip you can do with Excel is go in here and turn on just auto filter and just look at the data inside the filters. Very nice, very clean. The year has just 4 years, nothing weird. Job titles, again, quite a few job titles, but again, it all looks good. Another thing you can look at in here when you're dealing with this data is everything in English, right? If you're working with a global company, sometimes you'll see Chinese characters, you'll see things in other languages. But again, I'm just kind of going through real quick, looking at, you know, what do we got here from a data standpoint, doing just a little bit of profiling to see how things look. Okay, so this is an example of a very well-governed and formatted Excel spreadsheet. So my expectation is that when we go to import this should go right into GCP. We should be able to see the record count, and we should be able to, you know, basically have no issues when we import this. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out, and then I'm going to head over to GCP, and I'm going to import it. All right, so where I wanted, and there's more than one way to import data in GCP. I'm going to use BigQuery, and I'm going to do an import into my data set. All right, so I'm going to go to BigQuery and let that take me in. And now that I'm in BigQuery, I can see my data set right here. And I'm going to open that up. That's my project. Data quality is my data set, which I've already created. And then there are no tables underneath it. So to get this nicely formatted and clean table in here, I'm going to go to the 3 dots here, and I'm going to say create table, and then I've got this form to fill out. Well, what are we doing? What are we going to do? We're going to upload a file. We're going to go get the file, and it's jobs and data. There we go. It is in a CSV format. Where is it going? It's going to all joy, data quality. What are we going to call it? Well, let's just keep the same name, jobs in data. And this is something that is very important. GCP does not like it if you use uppercase characters. So if I put in this and I go to create the table, it will yell at me, right? It's got to be lowercase. All right, and then here's where it gets interesting. In the schema, we're going to say auto detect. If your data is well formatted, this is where things go great. It'll look at the data like we did in Excel. It'll be, oh, this is a character field, this is a date field, this is an integer, so on and so forth. That works great for well formatted data. And then nothing else really, this isn't huge, we don't have to worry about partitioning or anything else really down here. Now, I do want to show you this because I think it's important. In advanced options, I believe that you want to know about this guy, this field delimiter. Sometimes you have CSVs or a flat file that is tab delimited. And this is where you would find that, a tab, a pipe, or you can say, well, whatever it is, it was delimited with. In this case, a comma is going to work fine. In places where you have free formatted text where they have commas in it, you'd have to go back, format the file in like a tab delimited so that you can get a good parsing of the data. So we're going to just say, we're going to hit this create table right here, and then it should kick off a job. Now it says load job created and data created. Happy day. Let's go to the table, and here's our table. You can see we're in the details of the jobs and data. Here are our column names, right? So it looked at work here and it saw that it could be an integer. It took job titles, so on, category, yeah. Most things are strings and a few integers. Where GCP has trouble is in weird formatted dates especially, but you can see in this file, we're looking good. And then the next thing to do is check the record count. So I'm going to go ahead and say query, and I'm going to say select count star. And do you remember the record count? It was 9355. Is that right? I think that is right. And that should about do us. Let's just take a quick look at the actual data to make sure that it imported correctly. Now again, this is that kind of next level thinking for a data analyst where, okay, you've got the row count, great, but did the right column go in the right field heading? Is there a bunch of ASCII characters? Actually take a look at the data. So we're going to put our eyeballs on this data and see what it looks like. Okay, and then if we sort of scroll through just a little bit, right, looking left and right and up and down, we're basically looking at, does this look like it imported right? The location looks good, the size, work setting, all looks good. So there's your example of how things go well when the data is nicely governed and formatted. And next we're going to work on a file that gives us trouble. And I'm going to sort of take you through that journey without a lot of video editing, because I think a lot of times you're going to lose the heart of the work of a data analyst if you don't see some of the struggles around manipulating the data, getting things right so that it will go into GCP. So we're going to cut out here. I'm going to get a file that I know is not going to work, and we're going to work with that in this next section. So you've seen how it works on a good file. Now we need to look at what happens if we've got a bad file. What does that look like? So I've got a file out here. It's called bad customer data, and I'm going to try to import that, and we're going to get an error. So same exact process. We're going to go over here. We're going to say create table. We're going to say where are we going? We're going to upload and select that file. So it's bad cust. Oops, cust. Where's that? Oh, got to spell it right. Bad cust. And there's the file. Now, We're going to give it a name. It's going to be called bad customer data. It's all got to be lowercase, and auto detect and create table. Load job created. Awesome. Ooh, failed to create table. Hit this go to job, and then you'll see that we've got a bunch of errors. But in looking at it, it's all the same error for the same column. Now, the first thing I do when I get an error, and actually I normally do this even before I get errors, and we didn't do it on this file, but what I should have done is just take a look at the data. Let's go and open it up with Excel. I think this is going to pop onto my other screen, and I can just pull it over here. But this is the guy that's giving us the problem. Now, when I look at it, it looks okay. And you'll have this sometimes, and I'm not sure exactly why, but there is a quick fix to get you into GCP without having to touch the data, right? Or at least I would try this first. And one of those first things that I try to do is I just take the file and I save it instead of a comma delimited or a comma separated values. I'm going to use tab separated values. So a tab delimiter instead of a comma delimiter. And a lot of times that'll just take care of the problem. So I'm going to take this file and I'm just going to say File, Save As, and then I'm going to change it to a tab delimited txt file. I'm just going to say tab delimited, all right, so that it's very clear which one I am going to need to upload. And that's done, so close that out. And now there's my file. Go back to GCP. We've got to change the input file. So we want the new one, and it is, so this is bad cust, which is this tab delimited one. And then you still got to use CSV. So think of CSV in this pull down as anything that's a flat file, right? That's a text file. And the other thing we need to change though is down here under advanced options. You want to pull that down and find the delimiter, change it to a tab, and then we can hit create table and it should import. Load job created, and table created. Let's go to the table, and there's all of our fields and columns. And then if we say, all right, guy, let's see a query. Let's just pull some records. So select star, run, and how we doing? Boom. Oh, I picked the wrong table. It happens. Bad customer data, query, select star, run, and there we go. Name, address, so on, so forth. Good to go. And so there you have it. You have sometimes just taking a CSV and bringing it into Excel, save it as a comma or as a tab delimited, so a TXT with a tab delimiter, and you're good to go. There are, of course, exceptions to this rule, but this will probably fix 80 to 90% of your import issues. I will say if you come across something else, have a question, feel free to throw it in the comments. I do monitor the comments. And if you have a specific file or question, it might turn into a video that the entire community here at AllJoy Data can use. Hope you have a great day and God bless.